got it better than I.
Oh, we're live? Oh, okay. Everybody, welcome to the Shiva Bowl. I am your host and commissioner, Shane Turner, aka Kitchen Manager, aka Ginger, aka 2014-2015 League Champion. We're going to kick off the year. We're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about week 1 results, but first, we're going to talk about paying up. Pay your dues. $50 or whatever you have left to pay me. I have it all written down. I will be speaking to you in the next couple of weeks. Speaking of dues, how it's going to work, $50 a person was paid. So $10 team, that's going to be $500. Oh, excuse me, how are we going to split that up? $350 for first place, $100 for second place, and third place, you get your money back, $50. So you live to see another fantasy football season. Who knows, we might up the pay next year, but until then, that's what it's going to stand like. Also, we are working on the trophy right now. As soon as I get that trophy, I'll let you see it, but most likely that'll end up at my house at the end of the year. So enjoy seeing it while you can in the middle of the season. Now moving on, we're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about some winners and losers, but before we do that, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I had a great time. If you haven't already said thank you to Albert, please do so. He donated some beers to us for our event. Very nice of him. He didn't have to do that. But it seemed like everyone had a great time. Now moving on, we're going to talk about our losers first of the draft. This is all based on ESPN's ratings of each of our drafts. So the losers for the draft. First one, Lozano, you have a terrible team. You should feel really, really bad about that team. 3 kickers, I think. The first one was taken in about the 8th round, and he was suspended. So about 8 weeks down the road, you might benefit from that kicker. So until then, Matt Prater will continue to drink beers on your bench. You know, you've won awards for the CAG, but I don't think you're going to win an award in our Fantasy Football League. Moving on. George, beats by Ray. Dude, your team's terrible. You know, George, I thought he was all ready to go. He had an arsenal full of information, had an old MacBook, a magazine, and even brought a friend with him. So literally all the tools that he needed to succeed, and failed miserably. So, you know, you got to take a look at your team. You know, if you were probably playing in 2009-2010 year, you probably have the best team, but unfortunately that's not the case this year. You need to keep up with the times whenever you're drafting. But, you know, people learn their lesson. So moving on, we do have some winners based on the draft grades. The 2 people that stood out more than anyone else. The first one would be your commissioner here. You know, I had a great draft. I appreciate you guys for having a poor one, so it will make mine better. So very thoughtful of you. The other person is Josh McDonald. Josh McDonald had a steal by grabbing Adrian Peterson and I believe Arian Foster in his draft. That should never happen. It also shouldn't happen that I get LaShawn McCoy with the 4th overall pick. But you know, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. Also, some dark horses. You know, Caleb and Merritt. Caleb had a great draft, so did Merritt. A few sleepers in there. Hopefully that pans out for you guys. But for the most part, of course, your managers are very intelligent people. They're good at what they do, and that's why me and Josh McDonald are on top. So that's the end of our draft, pretty much. Just want to thank everyone for coming once again. I had a great time. Now, just to recap last season, before we recap week 1, Merritt is the champion. Merritt's back at the CAG. He, I think, just came back to defend his title, so very admirable of him. You know, I think there's one person that's really salty about that right now. That's Josh McDonald. Josh McDonald's heartbroken because of the loss. You know, he just couldn't stand to see Merritt's face, so he had to transfer to Las Colinas, which I understand. It was definitely tough to lose Josh McDonald, but it's good to have him in the league. Now moving on, let's take a look at your Week 1 results. Alright, so now that you have seen the results, obviously, hopefully you've been logging in to see these already, but let's highlight a few of these. So starting off first, we'll go with Papi Chulo versus Team Lozano. Now I just mentioned that Team Lozano was the definite loser of the draft. Very surprising though, prove me wrong, might have to shut my mouth. Team Lozano wins 117 to 89.5. Lozano had Marshawn Lynch go off, eating a lot of Skittles, absolute juggernaut against the Green Bay Packers, send him packing home. Might send me packing home at some point in the playoffs if he keeps playing like this, but I highly doubt it. So good luck Lozano with that. Papi Chulo Jaime signed up at the last minute, thanks to me, got to set up his lineup, so I don't think he was quite ready for this game. Maybe Week 2 Jaime. Papi Chulo might see another victory. Or, you know, might go, what's that? The Detroit Lions, right? They went 0-16, that's right. Speaking of 0-16, Jeremy's team, the Detroit Lions, went absolutely off for Jeremy. He depends on them at every turn. And Jeremy had the biggest point of the week, 160.5 to 92, whooping up on Beats by Ray, the other loser from our fantasy football draft. Now, just to recap, Team Jeremy, like I said, Detroit Lions, if they win, he's probably going to win. So, Chris Johnson had a whopping 34.5 points for Team Jeremy. Beats by Ray, their best player, let's think about this for a second. Their best player was Mark Ingram, 18.5 points. Didn't think you'd get that much out of Mark Ingram, but congratulations on somewhat of a sleeper that you got very early in the draft. Moving on, Waka Flocko Flame beats Team Porfy 130 to 92. Waka Flocko Flame had AJ Green just tearing it up, 25 points for him. So a big part of his team. Porfy tried his best with Andrew Luck, but the rest of his team really was not performing. So he loses by 42 points. Hopefully Porfy can make a comeback, but Caleb, like I said, he is one of those dark horses to win the league, so you got to keep an eye out on him. Had the second highest point total of the week. Moving on, Texas Gingers defeat Team Nikki 112 to 101. Texas Gingers, not surprising that they won. You know, they've been talking a lot of smack, you know. But Patterson had 22.5 points. You know, how about the Vikings? And then Matty Ice for Team Nikki, 35 points. Had Texas Gingers a little scared, to be quite honest, but we pull out the victory anyways, as expected. Now the game of the week, to highlight, like I was saying earlier, somehow, in the first week, the commissioner booked an amazing match against Merritt and Josh McDonald, a rematch of the championship game. You know Josh Mack wanted this one real bad. Probably roster baiting for a long time to make sure he had the right lineup. He went 99 to 97 against Merritt. Another close game between these two. It's quite the rivalry. You had the Eskimo Bros coming out on top. Brown giving him 22.5 points on the board. You know, it's going to be a little less than a quarter of his matchup potential. Brady Bunch married Davion Bell, 30 points. A lot of points, but you know, it just wasn't enough. Merritt really should have won this game, but the rest of his team could not keep up. So the Eskimo Bros get their revenge. It's the first week, guys, though. Really not a big deal. Can you do it in the postseason? That's where it all matters. So, there is your week 1. Now let's look at the overall standings after the first week. Alright guys, and there you go. There are your standings. So congrats to those that won. You have your stepping stone going forward to the playoffs. For those that lost, remember it's just week 1. You have plenty of time to win, but you also have plenty of time to screw up and still suck. So there's always that. You can always be a waiver wire champ though, so make sure to check the waiver wire. Now looking into week 2, we do have a lot of great matchups, but this video has been long so far, so we're going to cut it here. Thank you so much for tuning in to your Commissioners Week 1 recap of the Shiva Bowl. Thank you and have a great night.